The conference room buzzed with anticipation as I entered, my mind racing with figures and forecasts. My heart pounded with the rhythm of ambition, each beat a reminder of the stakes involved. I was Robert Sinclair, a name synonymous with success in the New York real estate market, and today's presentation was my chance to solidify my empire. As I glanced around the table, I noted the eager faces of investors, their eyes gleaming with the promise of profits. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the anxiety coiling in my stomach, "thank you for joining me today. We are on the brink of something monumental." I gestured toward the projection screen, where charts and graphs danced in a frenzy of color. As you can see, our latest project is projected to yield a 30% return within the first year. This is not just a development, it's an opportunity, one that we cannot afford to miss. A murmur of approval rippled through the room. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, pushing me to speak faster, to drown out the creeping discomfort in my chest. I pressed on, diving deeper into the figures. With the demand for luxury condos skyrocketing, we stand to capitalize on a market that has room for growth. Imagine the headlines. Sinclair Group leads the market. But as I spoke, a sudden wave of pain surged through me, a sharp stabbing sensation that gripped my chest. I paused for a moment, feeling the heat rise to my face. I tried to shake it off, to ignore the warning signs my body was screaming at me. This is just a minor setback, I thought, forcing a smile to mask my growing concern. I can't show weakness now. One of the investors, a sharp-eyed woman named Lisa, leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concern. "Robert, are you all right? You look a bit pale." "I'm fine, Lisa," I replied, waving a dismissive hand. "Just a little tired from the late nights. You know how it is." I returned my focus to the slides, willing myself to push through the presentation, but the pain intensified, gnawing at me like a relentless predator. I tried to concentrate, but my vision blurred for a moment, the edges of the room fading in and out. "Stay focused," I thought. "You can't afford to lose this momentum." I took a deep breath, hoping to steady myself. Now, if we look at the projected income from the first quarter, I trailed off as another wave of pain struck, this time more severe. My breath quickened, and I felt the world tilting on its axis. I just need to get through this, I thought desperately. But my body had other plans. The room spun, and I could hear the muffled voices of my colleagues growing distant, like echoes in a vast canyon. "Robert," someone shouted, but their words were drowned out by a deafening silence that enveloped me. I was falling, sinking into a void where the numbers and charts no longer mattered. When I awoke, the sterile scent of antiseptic filled my nostrils. Blinking against the harsh light, I found myself in a hospital room, the rhythmic beeping of machines surrounding me like a haunting melody. Panic surged through me as I struggled to comprehend what had happened. Just a little scare, I thought, trying to quell the rising tide of fear in my chest. But deep down, I felt a nagging dread. "Mr. Sinclair, you're awake." A nurse stepped into view, her smile warm but her eyes betraying concern. "You had a scare during your meeting. We're monitoring you closely. How are you feeling?" "Like I've been hit by a truck," I managed to croak out, trying to inject some humor into the situation. But the weight of reality pressed down on me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. "Your heart is under a lot of stress," she said gently. "We need to figure out what's causing it. Have you been under a lot of pressure lately?" I opened my mouth to respond, but the truth clawed at my throat. "It's just part of the job," I finally said, deflecting. But as I looked around the room, the sterile walls closing in on me, I felt an unsettling realization settle in. I had been so consumed by my ambition, chasing wealth and success, that I had lost sight of what truly mattered. In that moment of vulnerability, I knew I had to confront the truth of my life, the choices I had made, the people I had hurt. As I lay there, the echoes of laughter and the shadows of my past began to haunt me, setting the stage for a reckoning I never anticipated. I felt a jolt of confusion as I opened my eyes, only to find myself enveloped in a thick, inky darkness. I blinked several times, trying to adjust to the absence of light, but it was as if the darkness had a weight of its own, pressing down on me. There were no walls, no ceiling, just an endless void filled with echoes. I could hear distant laughter, sharp and mocking, like daggers piercing through the suffocating silence. It made my skin crawl. "Welcome, Robert," a voice purred from the shadows, smooth and dripping with disdain. I squinted into the dark, trying to catch a glimpse of the speaker. Suddenly, a figure began to form before me, a grotesque silhouette that twisted and morphed like smoke. I've been waiting for you. Who are you? I managed to croak out, my throat dry as sandpaper. There was a sense of dread creeping in, tightening my chest. What is this place? The figure laughed, a sound that echoed ominously in the void. Oh, I'm just a humble reflection of you, Robert Sinclair. A manifestation of your greed and ambition. You see, every choice you made, every person you trampled on, has led you here. This is your reckoning. I felt a chill run down my spine. I don't have time for this nonsense. I need to get back to my life, my business. I shouted, my voice thick with desperation. But even as I spoke, I felt a creeping doubt gnawing at me. Maybe I had been so consumed by my desires that I had lost sight of everything else. Your life. The figure sneered, stepping closer. I could see its eyes now, dark hollow voids that seemed to swallow the light. You mean the life built on the ruins of others? The life filled with empty accolades and soulless victories. It gestured around us, and suddenly, the darkness began to shift. I saw flashes, faces of people I had hurt, shadows of my past. No. Stop. I shouted, but it was too late. Images exploded around me. There was Sarah, my wife, her face streaked with tears. You don't even care about me anymore, Robert, she cried, her voice filled with anguish. All you care about is your empire. I recoiled, guilt flooding my senses. I had pushed her away, blinded by my ambition. The scene shifted again. I saw a former colleague, David, sitting alone in a dimly lit office, his eyes hollow, desperation etched into his features. I trusted you, Robert, he said, his voice cracking. You promised me a future, but you only cared about your own success. My heart raced, the weight of betrayal heavy on my chest. Look at them, the figure hissed, its voice now a sinister whisper. Look at what you've done. Their pain echoes through your very existence. Can you feel it? Can you feel their suffering? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the images, but they seeped through like poison. I felt trapped, ensnared in a web of my own making. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, I whimpered, my voice barely a whisper. I was just trying to succeed. The figure chuckled darkly. And that's exactly the problem, isn't it? You mistook ambition for success, and now it's cost you everything. Your wealth, your love, your humanity. You're left with nothing but hollow victories. With that, I was bombarded with more memories, each one a dagger to my heart. I saw faces of my employees, their hopes dashed, their dreams crushed under the weight of my decisions. I didn't know, I pleaded, tears streaming down my face. I thought I was doing what was right for business. Business? This is not business. This is destruction, the figure concluded, its voice booming, echoing off the walls of my mind. You've built your empire on the backs of the broken. And now, it's time for you to confront the truth. Are you ready to face the consequences? I felt my knees give way beneath me as the darkness closed in, suffocating and relentless. I was drowning in my own choices, and the weight of my ambition was crushing me, leaving me gasping for air in the cold void. I found myself in a place that felt both familiar and horrifying, a dark abyss filled with whispers and shadows. As I wandered through this spectral landscape, I could hear the echoes of laughter, once joyous, now twisted and mocking. Each step I took sent a chill down my spine, as if the very air was laden with the weight of my past transgressions. Suddenly, I was surrounded by an array of faces, their expressions a haunting reflection of my choices. They were the people I had overlooked, the ones I had trampled on my relentless climb to the top. Robert Sinclair, a voice hissed, snapping me from my reverie. It was the demon, his figure looming over me, eyes glinting with malice. Welcome to the gallery of your guilt. Let me go. I shouted, my voice echoing back at me, swallowed by the darkness. Oh, but you misunderstand, he chuckled, his laughter reverberating through the void. You're not leaving until you see the consequences of your actions. With a wave of his hand, the shadows morphed into a series of scenes that played out like a movie screen. The first image that materialized was of a once cheerful employee, Jason, who had dedicated years to my company. I watched as he sat at a dimly lit kitchen table, a pile of unpaid bills before him. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet, he whispered, his voice cracking. I felt a pang of recognition, the memory rushing back. I had laid him off, prioritizing profits over people, convinced it was just business. Do you see the ruin you've left in your wake? The demon taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. You took away his livelihood, his dignity. No. I cried out, clenching my fists. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to succeed. Success at what cost? He sneered, waving his hand again. The scene shifted, and I was now staring at a woman, tears streaming down her face. It was Sarah, my wife, standing in our bedroom. Robert, you're never here. You don't care about us anymore, she sobbed, her words piercing my heart like a dagger. Sarah, I whispered, feeling the weight of her pain wash over me. The demon leaned closer, a sinister smile spreading across his face. You didn't even notice her suffering, did you? Too busy chasing your next deal, your next trophy. You're a king with no kingdom. Stop it! I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. I can change. I can fix this. Can you? He replied, his tone mocking. Let's take a look at the true cost of your ambition. The darkness thickened, and I was thrust into yet another scene. This time, it was a newspaper headline. Local businessman takes own life. Beneath it, a photo of a familiar face, my former colleague Mark. No, it can't be, I murmured, my heart racing. I remembered the pressure I had put him under, the ruthless decisions I had made without a second thought. The image of his despair haunted me. He was overwhelmed by the burden you placed on him, the demon said, his voice cold and unyielding. And you? You didn't even look back. You moved on as if he was just another number on your balance sheet. The guilt crashed over me like a tidal wave. I never wanted this. I didn't know. I gasped, my knees buckling under the weight of my remorse. But ignorance is no excuse, Robert. You chose ambition over compassion, and now you must face the truth. The darkness around me swirled, and I felt myself sinking into an abyss of despair. I could hear their voices now, a cacophony of pain and anger. You ruined my life. You destroyed my family. You never cared. Each accusation hit me like a physical blow, and I was left gasping for breath, drowning in my own regret. As I stood there, surrounded by the shadows of my past, I realized that this was my doing. The faces of those I had hurt were not just figments of my imagination. They were the consequences of a life lived without regard for others. In that moment, the truth settled in my chest like a stone. I had built my empire on the backs of those I had betrayed. Do you feel the weight of your choices now? The demon asked, his voice a low growl. You can't escape this reality. No, I can't, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, tears streaming down my face. But I need to make it right. I need to change. The demon merely laughed, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was too lost in the realization of what I had done, and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, there was still time for redemption. As shadows danced around me in that dark, suffocating space, their whispers clawing at the edges of my sanity. The air was thick with the weight of my past decisions, the mistakes I'd made echoing in my mind like a relentless drumbeat. I felt the presence of the demon before I even saw him, an oppressive force that settled into the pit of my stomach. When he finally emerged, his form was twisted and grotesque, a mockery of everything I had aspired to be. Welcome back, Robert, he sneered, his voice smooth yet dripping with malice. How does it feel to be stripped of your power, reduced to this trembling husk, haunted by your own choices? I swallowed hard, trying to muster the courage to respond. What do you want from me? I managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. The demon leaned closer, his eyes glinting with amusement. I want you to see the truth, my dear Robert. You've spent your life chasing after shadows, blinded by greed. Let me show you what lies beneath the surface of your so-called success. With a wave of his hand, the darkness around us shifted, and suddenly, I was standing in a different place, a mirror of my life, fractured and painful. The first image that flickered to life was of Sarah, my wife. She stood in our dining room, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, a stark contrast to the forced smile she wore. I could hear my younger self, oblivious and arrogant, discussing plans for an expansion that would only push us further apart. Look at her, Robert, the demon taunted. She's drowning in your ambition. Do you even see her anymore? I opened my mouth to argue, but the words caught in my throat. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been so consumed by my desires that I had neglected the most precious part of my life. The scene shifted again, and I was surrounded by faces, former employees, all shadows with hollow expressions. I recognized their pain. I had laid them off without a second thought, all to chase a fleeting dollar. Their stories of despair washed over me like a tidal wave, each one more crushing than the last. I could hear the whispered accusations, the cries for help that I had ignored. You made them suffer, Robert, the demon hissed. Feel their pain. You're the architect of their destruction. I fell to my knees, my heart racing as I desperately tried to block out their voices. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to succeed. I pleaded, but my voice was weak, devoid of conviction. The demon's laughter echoed in the abyss. Success? At what cost? You've traded love and compassion for cold, hard cash. Let me show you how this ends. The darkness morphed again, and I was thrust into another memory, a moment that should have been filled with joy but quickly turned sour. I saw Sarah and me at our wedding, radiant with hope and love. But before I could bask in that warmth, the scene shifted to a heated argument, our voices raised in frustration. I remembered the sting of her words, the way she accused me of choosing my work over her. The love that had once bound us felt like it was shattering into pieces around me. Do you see what you've lost? Your heart, your home, the demon whispered, his tone dripping with satisfaction. All for what? A fleeting moment of power. No. I shouted, the anguish spilling out of me. I can't lose her. I can't lose any of them. The demon merely smiled, a twisted grin that sent chills down my spine. Then perhaps you should think about what it means to truly live, Robert. Let's explore an alternate reality, shall we? With another flick of his wrist, the world around me transformed once more. I found myself in a sunlit garden, surrounded by laughter and warmth. It was a vision of what could have been, a life where I chose generosity over greed. I saw myself with Sarah, our hands intertwined, surrounded by friends and family who loved us unconditionally. Look at how they adore you, the demon said, his tone now mocking. You could have had this, but you chose differently. I felt a pang of longing, an ache that resonated deep within me. This is what I wanted. I just didn't know it. The demon's smile faded, replaced by a more sinister expression. But this is not your reality, is it? You still have a choice, but are you brave enough to make it? Then the vision darkened again, morphing into a stark image of loneliness. I stood in a lavish mansion, surrounded by material wealth but utterly alone. The silence was deafening, the emptiness palpable. My heart raced, panic setting in as I understood the true horror of this future, a life filled with possessions but devoid of love. Please, I begged, my voice trembling. I don't want this. Then you must face the truth, the demon replied, his voice echoing ominously in my mind. What do you truly desire, Robert? The fleeting thrill of power or the enduring warmth of connection? As I stood there, grappling with the weight of my choices, a flicker of clarity pierced through the shadows. I realized that I had been chasing the wrong dreams, prioritizing wealth over the very essence of life. Listen to your heart, a small voice whispered from within me. Find the love you've lost, Robert. With that thought echoing in my mind, I knew I had to confront the truth, to reclaim my humanity before it was too late. The darkness enveloped me like a suffocating blanket, and the chilling laughter echoed around me, distorting into haunting whispers. I stood alone, a mere shadow of the man I once thought I was. I could feel the weight of my past pressing down on me, a relentless force showcasing the consequences of my insatiable ambition. Then, out of that murky void, he emerged, the demon. He was tall, cloaked in shadows, with a grin that twisted my stomach. Welcome back, Robert, he sneered, his voice smooth like silk, yet laced with venom. Did you enjoy your little nap? What do you want from me? I demanded, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to sound assertive. I'm not afraid of you. Oh, but you should be, he retorted, taking a step closer. You see, I am not here to harm you. I'm here to show you the truth. The truth about yourself. His eyes glinted with malice as he snapped his fingers, and suddenly, the air around us shimmered. Images flashed before my eyes. My life played out like a grotesque movie reel. I gasped as I saw Sarah, my wife, sitting alone at our dinner table, her smile faltering while I rambled about profits and expansion. You always did care more about your empire than your family, didn't you? The demon taunted. Look at her. Look at how you've pushed her away. No. I was just focused on our future, I stammered, but the words felt hollow even to me. Future. He laughed, a sound so cruel that it sent shivers down my spine. What future? One filled with wealth and loneliness? Look again. The scene shifted, and I was back in my office, surrounded by charts and figures, the sterile glow of my computer screen illuminating the emptiness in my heart. I saw faces of colleagues I had betrayed, friends I had discarded for the sake of profit. Their eyes were filled with pain and accusation, and I felt their anguish clawing at me. "You did this," the demon hissed, his voice dripping with disdain. "You destroyed lives, Robert." "No," I shouted, the denial rising in my throat like bile. "I had to make tough decisions. It was business." "Business? Is that what you call it?" He stepped closer, invading my space, his breath cold against my skin. "You were a monster, Robert. And now, look at what it has cost you." I saw a flash of the young man who had taken his own life because of the pressure I had put on him. The realization hit me like a freight train. "I didn't know," I whispered, my heart racing. "I didn't know he was suffering." "Of course you didn't," the demon said, his tone now almost mocking. "You were too busy climbing the ladder of success to notice the bodies you left in your wake." The pain in my chest intensified, and I sank to the ground, overwhelmed. "I'm sorry," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to provide for my family." "Successful," he echoed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What does that even mean to you? Wealth? Power? Or is it just the illusion of control? You've lost everything that mattered, Robert. Look at the emptiness around you." I shook my head, the weight of my mistakes crashing down on me like a tidal wave. "Please. I just want a chance to make it right. I want to change. I want to be better." The demon's expression shifted, an amused glint in his eyes. "Change? You think you can just walk away from this? You think you deserve redemption after everything you've done?" "Yes." I cried out, desperation clawing at my throat. "I'll do anything. Just give me one more chance. I'll make amends. I'll be a better man. I swear it." "Ah, but can you? Can you truly change?" His voice dripped with skepticism. "You've been living in the shadows of your greed for so long. Can you really step into the light?" As the demon spoke, a faint glow began to pierce through the darkness. It was soft, almost ethereal, radiating a warmth I hadn't felt in years. I turned towards it, hope bubbling in my chest. "I can," I breathed, feeling the light wrap around me like a gentle embrace. "I want to try. Please, let me try." The demon's smile faded slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Very well, then. But remember, Robert, the path to redemption is fraught with challenges. You may not like what you find along the way." "I don't care," I declared, my heart racing with newfound determination. "I'll face whatever it takes. Just give me the chance to make it right." As the darkness began to dissolve, the light enveloped me, and I felt a surge of hope. I was ready to confront my past and reclaim my future. I woke up in a haze, the beeping of machines surrounding me like an unsettling symphony. My eyes fluttered open, and I was hit by the stark white of the hospital room, the antiseptic scent lingering in the air. Panic surged through me as I tried to sit up, only to be met with a sharp pain in my chest that forced me back down against the stiff sheets. My heart raced, not just from the physical discomfort but from the memories that flooded back, flashes of ambition, greed, and the chilling encounter with that demon in the darkness. "Mr. Sinclair? Can you hear me?" A voice broke through my chaotic thoughts. A nurse approached, her face a blend of concern and professionalism. I nodded weakly, still grappling with the remnants of that eerie place I had just escaped. "You had a cardiac event. You need to take it easy." "Cardiac event," I murmured, the words tasting foreign on my tongue. It felt like a euphemism for my reckless pursuit of success, a warning sign I had ignored for far too long. A wave of shame washed over me as I recalled the faces of those I had wronged, the echoes of their pain still ringing in my ears. "Just breathe," she encouraged, adjusting the 4-drip by my bedside. "You're safe now. Just focus on recovery." Safe? The word felt hollow. How could I feel safe when I had been so reckless? I closed my eyes, allowing the darkness to envelop me again, but this time it was different. Instead of the shadowy figures taunting me, I was faced with the stark reality of my life. My heart beat steadily, reminding me of my fragile existence, and the weight of my choices. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and I turned my head slowly, my heart sinking as I saw Sarah enter the room, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "Robert," she breathed, rushing to my side. I was so scared. I opened my mouth to speak, but all that came out was a hoarse whisper. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Stop," she interrupted, holding up a hand, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Just rest. We can talk later." But the way she said later felt heavy, as if she was unsure if there would even be a later for us. I felt a wave of desperation crash over me. Sarah, please. I need to explain. I need you to know how much I regret, she snapped, her voice rising, the tension in the room palpable. You think a few words will erase the years of neglect, the ambition that took you away from me? You weren't there, Robert. You were always chasing something, money, power, while I was here alone. Her words stung, each one a reminder of my failures. I know, I admitted, my voice trembling. I was blind. I let greed consume me. I didn't see what was right in front of me. I took a deep breath, wincing at the pain in my chest. I almost died, Sarah. I was confronted with everything I've done, and I can't go back to that life. She softened slightly, her gaze searching my face for sincerity. What do you want from me, Robert? A second chance? You think you can just wake up and decide to change everything? I want to try, I pleaded, my heart racing not just from the physical pain but from the weight of her gaze. I want to be better. For you, for us, she looked away, her expression unreadable. You have a long way to go. Just because you had a wake-up call doesn't mean I can forget everything. Her voice cracked, and I could see the hurt etched on her features. You've hurt so many people, including me. I know, I said, feeling the sting of tears welling up in my eyes. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. Just give me a chance to show you. Please. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel the weight of my confession hanging in the air between us, a fragile bridge built on regret and hope. Finally, Sarah sighed, a mix of resignation and a flicker of something deeper. You have a lot to prove, Robert. I hope you're ready for that. With that, she turned to leave, the door clicking softly behind her. I lay back against the pillows, the beeping of the machines now a reminder of my heart's fragility. I had been given a second chance, a chance to redefine my life. But the path ahead was steep, filled with the echoes of my past decisions. I closed my eyes, determined to face whatever came next, hoping that my journey toward redemption wouldn't be in vain. As hospital walls felt sterile and cold, echoing with the beeping of machines that monitored my every heartbeat, I had awakened from a turbulent darkness, a realm where my conscience had been stripped bare. The visions of my past haunted me, faces of those I had wronged, lives I had destroyed in my relentless pursuit of wealth. Now I lay in this bed, a fragile shell of the man I once was. I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me, an invisible chain that seemed to bind my spirit. As I shifted under the thin hospital sheets, my mind raced. What would I say to Sarah? Would she even want to see me? The thought of her walking through that door filled me with both hope and dread. I knew I had to try, even if it felt like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. My heart raced at the thought of facing her after everything, but I couldn't hide from the truth any longer. I had to confront the damage I had caused. Just then, the door creaked open, and Sarah stepped in. She looked tired, her eyes red-rimmed, and a shadow of worry hung over her brow. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, we stood there in silence, two strangers separated by the chasm my ambition had created. Robert, she said finally, her voice trembling slightly. You scared me. I thought I might lose you. I'm sorry, Sarah, I managed to croak out, my voice hoarse. I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you. She crossed her arms, her gaze steady and piercing. You never meant to hurt me? Or anyone? That's hard to believe. I flinched at her words, each syllable a reminder of my failures. I know I've been selfish. I've been so consumed by my work, by the chase for more. I didn't see what I was losing. I didn't see you. Do you even understand what you've done? She shot back, her tone sharp. You pushed everyone away. I can't even remember the last time we had a real conversation. I nodded, the truth of her words hitting me like a punch to the gut. I know. I've been blind. I didn't realize I was losing you until I was lying on that conference room floor, faced with the emptiness of my life. I thought I was building an empire, but I was just building walls. Her expression softened for a brief moment, but the tension remained palpable. It's going to take more than words, Robert. Trust is not something that can be mended overnight. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, I replied earnestly, desperation creeping into my voice. I want to rebuild what I've broken. I want to be better. I want you to know that I am serious about changing. She sighed, running a hand through her hair, her frustration evident. Change is a process, not a destination. You can't just flip a switch and expect everything to be fine. You need to prove it to me, to us. I will, I said, my heart racing. I'm ready to face my past, to confront the pain I've caused. I want to go to therapy, to understand why I let my ambition consume me. I want to open up, to be vulnerable. There was a long pause, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. Finally, she spoke softly, if you truly mean that, maybe we can start somewhere. But it won't be easy. I'm ready for that, I promised, feeling a flicker of hope ignite in my chest. If you'll give me the chance, I'll show you how much you mean to me. Okay, she said hesitantly. But don't expect me to be waiting with open arms right away. It'll take time, Robert. I understand, I replied, relief washing over me. I need you to know that I'm committed to this. I want to fight for us. As she nodded slowly, I felt a glimmer of something I hadn't felt in ages, connection. Perhaps it was the beginning of a long journey toward redemption, but I was willing to take that first step, no matter how daunting it seemed. As I stared at the blank sheet of paper in front of me, my hands trembled slightly, betraying the mix of anxiety and determination swirling within me. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of introspection, and today marked the beginning of a journey I had long evaded, making amends. I had made countless mistakes, and now it was time to confront those I had wronged. Robert, you ready? I looked up to see my assistant, Clara, peeking through the door, her expression a blend of concern and encouragement. I nodded, but the pit in my stomach remained. Yeah, just give me a second, I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. As I stood up, I felt the weight of my past pressing down on me. Each step towards the meeting room felt like a step into my own reckoning. I arrived at the conference room, where 3 of my former employees awaited me. They shifted uncomfortably in their seats, casting wary glances my way. I cleared my throat, attempting to shake off the memories of how I had treated them during my relentless pursuit of success. Thank you for coming, I began, my voice shaky but resolute. I know this isn't easy for any of us. I've come to realize how deeply I've hurt you, and I'm truly sorry. One of them, Mark, a former project manager, crossed his arms tightly over his chest. You think saying sorry makes everything right? You fired me without a second thought when I needed that job the most, he snapped, his voice laced with anger. I know I can't undo the damage I've caused, I replied, my heart pounding. But I want to help, to support you in any way I can. I've set up a fund to assist those I've affected. I want to make things right. Your money doesn't fix the scars, said Lisa, another former employee, her voice quivering with restrained emotion. You had no idea what we were going through, did you? All those late nights, the stress. And for what? Just to line your pockets. I was blind, I admitted, a lump forming in my throat. I didn't see the human cost of my ambition. I was selfish, and it cost you all so much. I can't change the past, but I can help with the future. Please, let me show you that I'm serious about this. There was a tense silence, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Finally, Mark spoke again, this time his voice calmer, though still edged with skepticism. What exactly does this fund entail? How do we know this isn't just another empty gesture? I took a deep breath, feeling the heaviness of my guilt. I want to provide financial assistance for those who need it, whether it's for education, health issues, or even starting a new business. I'll be involved personally, meeting with each of you to understand your needs. Lisa exchanged a glance with Mark, her expression softening slightly. And what do you want in return? She asked, her tone cautious. Nothing, I said sincerely. I just want to make amends. I want to listen to your stories, to understand the impact of my decisions. I want to learn how to be better. You don't owe me anything. Slowly, I saw some of the walls they had built begin to crumble. Lisa uncrossed her arms, and Mark's posture relaxed. It's a start, I guess, Mark said, his tone begrudgingly accepting. But it's going to take a lot more than a fund to rebuild trust. I understand, I replied, my heart racing as hope mingled with fear. I'm willing to put in the work, to listen to you and learn. I want to earn your trust back, little by little. As we began to talk, I listened intently to their stories, each word revealing the depth of their struggles. The pain in their voices was a stark reminder of the cost of my ambition. Each confession was a step toward healing, not just for them, but for myself as well. Thank you for being honest with me, I said after a particularly poignant story from Lisa about her struggles to find employment after I had let her go. I can't change what happened, but I can support your journey moving forward. I want to be part of your healing process. As the conversation continued, I realized that this was just the beginning. The road to redemption would be long and fraught with challenges, but I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me. For the first time in years, I was not just a businessman. I was a human being, ready to take responsibility for my actions. And that, I believed, was the first step toward real change. As I stepped out of my car, the bustling sounds of the city seemed distant, almost muted. My heart raced with trepidation as I approached the local shelter. I had spent years building my empire, but now it was time to invest in something more meaningful, something that could make a real difference in people's lives. The moment I entered the shelter, I was greeted by a wave of warmth mixed with the unmistakable scent of home-cooked meals. The walls were adorned with colorful drawings made by the children who lived there. I felt a tug in my heart, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years. I approached the reception desk, where a kind woman in her 50s smiled warmly at me. "Welcome. You must be Mr. Sinclair. We're glad to have you here," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "Thank you. I'm here to help however I can," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Wonderful. We could always use more hands. Why don't you join us in the kitchen? We're preparing lunch for the kids," she suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. I nodded, following her through the bustling common area. The sound of laughter and chatter filled the air, a stark contrast to the cold silence of my office. As I entered the kitchen, I was greeted by the sight of volunteers chopping vegetables, stirring pots, and setting the table. It was a hive of activity, and I felt a surge of purpose. "Hey there. I'm Lisa," a young woman said, extending her hand toward me. "You must be the big shot who's decided to grace us with his presence." I chuckled awkwardly and shook her hand. "I wouldn't say big shot, but I'm here to help." "Well, we can always use extra hands. Grab an apron," she exclaimed, tossing one in my direction. I caught it and slipped it on, feeling a little ridiculous but excited. As we prepared the meals, I found myself chatting with the volunteers. "What brought you all here?" I asked, genuinely curious. "I've been volunteering here for years," Lisa said, stirring a pot of soup. "I love seeing the kids smile. They've been through so much, and just a little kindness can go a long way." Her words struck a chord deep within me. I thought about the countless people I had overlooked in my quest for success. "I want to help the community, but I'm not sure where to start," I admitted, feeling vulnerable. "Just be yourself," Lisa replied. "Listen to their stories. That's the best way to connect." With renewed determination, I resolved to step outside my comfort zone. After lunch was served and the children gathered around the tables, I took a deep breath and approached a group of kids. They looked up at me with bright eyes, curiosity sparking in their expressions. "Hey there. I'm Robert. What's your name?" I asked a shy girl with pigtails. "I'm Mia," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mia, that's a beautiful name. What do you like to do?" I pressed on, trying to draw her out. "I love drawing," she said, her confidence growing. "I want to be an artist someday." "An artist? That's amazing. I'd love to see your drawings," I encouraged, genuinely interested. Mia's face lit up, and she began to tell me about her favorite characters and stories. As she spoke, I realized how disconnected I had been from genuine human interactions. I had spent so many years focused on profits and losses that I had forgotten the value of simple conversations. After spending the afternoon with the kids, I felt a sense of fulfillment I hadn't known in years. As I prepared to leave, I approached Lisa again. "Thank you for today. It opened my eyes in ways I didn't expect." "You're welcome. Just remember, it's about more than just giving money. It's about being present," she said, her smile warm and sincere. As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter. I had taken a small step toward making amends, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was on the right path. I knew I had to keep moving forward, to continue rebuilding relationships and healing the wounds of my past. This journey was just beginning, and I was ready to embrace it. As I stood beside the young man, Daniel, while we discussed his dreams of starting a business, a sense of purpose surged through me. I could feel the warmth of determination radiating between us, like a spark igniting a long-dormant fire. But just as I was about to offer him my full support, a chilling thought gripped me. I had heard whispers about his past, about the father he never knew. My heart raced, and I felt the walls of guilt closing in around me. "Robert," Daniel said, a hopeful gleam in his eyes, "I really appreciate everything you're doing for me. It's like I finally have someone who believes in me. I want to make my dad proud." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I swallowed hard, the weight of my past pressing down on my chest. "Your dad. He was a good man," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "He deserved so much better than what happened to him." Daniel looked at me, confusion etched on his face. "You knew him?" "I did," I replied, my heart racing. "He worked for me, and I failed him in ways I can never undo." The truth hung heavy in the air between us, and I could see the flicker of understanding in his eyes. "Wait, you're the Robert Sinclair? The one who," he trailed off, the realization dawning on him like a dark cloud. "You were the reason he lost everything." The silence that followed felt suffocating. I could see the hurt in his eyes, and it mirrored the pain I felt inside. "I was blinded by my ambition," I confessed, the words tumbling from my lips. "I didn't see the people I was hurting. I didn't see your father's struggle until it was too late." Daniel's expression hardened, but beneath it, I sensed a flicker of hurt that matched my own. "You took everything from him. And now, I'm just trying to get by. I thought you were different, that you wanted to help." "I do want to help," I said, desperation lacing my voice. "I can't bring him back, but I can help you. I want to make amends, not just for you but for him. I want to honor his memory by helping you succeed." He looked away, battling his emotions. "How can I trust you? You're just another rich guy who's trying to feel good about himself." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "I understand your anger. I deserve it. But I'm trying to change. I've seen the damage my choices have caused, and I want to help you avoid the same mistakes I made. Let me be your mentor. Let me guide you on this journey." Daniel hesitated, the conflict visible on his face. I could see the flicker of hope battling with the weight of his father's legacy. "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" he asked quietly, the vulnerability breaking through his tough exterior. "Failure is part of the journey," I replied, my voice steady. "But I'll be here with you every step of the way. You won't be alone. Your father would have wanted you to chase your dreams, regardless of the obstacles." He looked at me, and in that moment, I saw a glimmer of trust forming. "Okay," he said slowly, "I'll give it a shot. But if you mess this up for me, I won't," I interrupted, my sincerity washing over me like a wave. "I promise you, I won't let you down. Together, we'll make something great." As we shook hands, I felt a surge of hope. It wasn't just for Daniel, it was for me too. I had finally found a way to honor the memory of the man I had wronged. And as we began to lay the groundwork for his business, I felt a profound shift within me. I was no longer the man consumed by greed. I was becoming someone who could contribute, who could make a difference. Later, as I reflected on the day's events, I realized the true weight of my past sins. The demon that had haunted me wasn't just a figment of my imagination, it was a manifestation of my own choices. I had finally begun to confront it, and with each step I took with Daniel, I felt a piece of that darkness begin to lift. "Robert," I whispered to myself, "you can do this. You can change." And for the first time in years, I believed it.